Yo, yo, good morning, Stocktwits crew. Hope everybody is having a great week and a great morning so far. Happy FAFO Friday. We're getting into the end of the week. It's been a crazy one. These past 3 weeks, really, if you look at SPY, we've just been really back and forth in the same range. At least this week, we've gotten some more volatility to bring some clean trades. But Michael Nauss, how are we feeling about these last few weeks and how we're going into today? Wrap up the week.
The market's acting almost too technically perfect for me, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But it's like a little bit scary about how well things are going. Let's just put it that way for my trades. And it's funny as a newer trader, you go, oh, I figured something out. I'm the greatest. And then I think as an old man trader, you go, something bad's about to happen if I'm doing this well.
I've always noticed it always seems when things are too perfect in the market, it's fishy. You know what I mean? For
Hmm.
some reason, it's always when it's kind of sloppy that's actually better.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, excited to get into the morning. Just kind of recapping from the week and from yesterday. Bulls are still kind of waiting. Markets slipping again as bulls struggle to find a catalyst. Only 3 of the 11 S&P sectors closed green, led by consumer staples. So. Um, Market's just struggling. Again, we're back and
Hmm.
forth in this range. Volatility is a little higher this week, so again, we're getting those bigger moves, but still, I mean, not really going anywhere, right? Meanwhile, though, gold is hitting all-time highs. Silver reached its highest level since 2011. So,
Yeah.
if you're a holder there, you're loving life right now. Things are doing really well. None of
Oh,
my shorts have worked out, Michael. I've tried a few shorts on gold recently. They're not working, so I'm holding off on that. But we got any thoughts on gold and silver kind of making all-time highs while everything else is just not really doing
yeah.
anything?
The thing to keep in mind with short-term trades for mean reversion or whatever, fine. For people who haven't been around for other commodity super cycles, these things can go way further than anyone thinks, right? And just look at was it earlier this year or last year, cocoa, like
Yeah.
100x or something crazy like that. So
Ridiculous.
a lot of people look at these and say, oh, well, it's gold. Who cares, right? And try to take mean reversion trades on it. Again, short-term day trades, I think I was on last week or the week before, and I had taken one. So go ahead, but I'm not for the long term going to bet against these guys at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. We had some data come out this morning. We did have GDP yesterday, which, to be honest, I was expecting a lot more coming into 8:30 Eastern yesterday, and we really
Hmm.
didn't see too much. More the movement happened during the market hours, which was nice, but
Yeah.
little surprising there when we got into the morning. This morning we had PCE come out. The Fed's pressured inflation measure was 2.5%, in line with expectations of 2.5. The core PCE inflation rises to 2.8, above expectations of 2.7. And then January core PCE inflation was also revised up to 2.7. So core inflation is back on the rise. Do we have any thoughts on that, Michael?
I don't think anyone cares right now. I
Yeah,
think it's
I
one of
know.
those, like there's moments that everybody cares about. All of these numbers come in out of favors. I remember during the pandemic, it was all about jobs, right? Every time there was a jobs report, the market would just explode in one direction or the other. And then for a while, it was GDP, and they're trying to guess what, because the only thing that people care about is what the Fed's going to do, right? So they're trying to use this to guess what the Fed's going to do. Right now, I think it's just all tariffs. I think no one, we've got this whole tariff deadline coming in. So if you're talking about big, macro econ events, I think everybody is just focused 100% on tariffs, and this other stuff's kind of noise right now.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot just being on spaces over the past week, 2 weeks. Everybody is talking about, that event and just kind of waiting for that. So it makes sense that the market's not really doing too much. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Everybody's sitting back and, biting their fingernails, wondering
Yeah.
what's going to happen. I get it. So, we just gotta trade the choppy volatility while it's here.
Yeah.
But no matter what, I'm really fine with it. I have not done very well this week, considering how well I've done for the year so far. Just had a little bit of a mental block this week, but even with that, I mean, the moves have been extremely clean, right? The only problem has been me personally. So for the short term trades, even with this choppy back and forth action, you can really find some clean trades on a week like this,
Well, and,
where
and
there's plenty
that's
of
the I think
opportunity.
that's the perfect mentality to have with trading, right? The best traders I know, if anyone's like screaming in the in the comments about someone else's trades or something like that, I know that person's probably not a great trader. The best traders I know, and I know a lot of right? Multi-millionaire traders have been doing this for 20, 30 years. They're always the most zen. Like, I don't care what's going to happen. I can't control it. I'm not going to spend any time worrying about it. Let's just sit back and kind of rationally analyze what's going to happen and then come up with a plan and execute on that plan when the time comes.
100%. We got Lululemon, cautious consumer vibes, EPS and revenue beat, but weak guidance and margins concerns sparked a sell-off. The CEO warned of economic and geopolitical uncertainty hitting U.S. shoppers. The Stocktwits sentiment is now extremely bearish, which makes complete sense. Used to be a name I had some shares in, but I mean, recently I've departed from every name in my portfolio except for Tesla, which
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah.
Just look at the
been rough.
long-term chart on Lulu. It hasn't gone anywhere since 2020.
I know,
Just
the poor
nowhere.
thing.
Just poof,
I
sideways.
I want your take on this real quick, Michael, because I've
Sure.
kind of been in the camp on, like when I feel that there's opportunity in names like Ulta, Lulu, those consumer names. I've been in the past liking to take a little action on some of the dips, in the thought process of like makeup thing, like in terms, I know Lulu's not makeup, but Lulu is kind of in that category of the female consumer and how much is being spent at stores like that. I've always been in the mindset of like, if the women are constantly buying this up, especially in makeup, like that's something I always want to be buying dips in, especially in like a recession. At least I think so, right? Because that's something I would think that would never really turn over or go out of
Yeah.
business. But I want your thoughts on that because I could be completely skewed on that.
There is a meme, to not be offensive to anyone, but it's the have you ever heard of the Becky Index?
No, no. What's
The
this?
and the Becky Index, generally speaking, I think it's underperformed a little bit lately with the whole AI thing. But the Becky Index, the idea is that you're buying things that white girls named Becky like, right? So
Yeah,
Starbucks,
yeah.
Lulu,
Okay.
Peloton, right? All these things. And generally speaking, it does very well because you're right. It's one of those that us men don't consume very much. I think I've had this shirt for like probably 10 years now. And,
Exactly.
as long as you
You
can't
guys have
see the
seen me in this
holes.
hoodie how many times? Like,
So yeah, it's the leader of consumption. It's also, they say, when it comes to housing, it's the woman that picks the house, right? If you, I know you watch any of those shows where they're selling homes, right? You've got the man who's like, it's fine, and the woman's like, no, the bathroom's like, so no, so that makes a lot of sense. But when it comes to technicals, I just look at something like this, and I don't see a dividend marker. Generally on TradingView, there'll be a dividend marker at the bottom of the screen. So I don't see that they pay a dividend, and they just haven't gone anywhere. So when I look at these things, you always got to bring it back to the technicals. It's not, it has to do something, right? It just has to
technicals
do
aren't
something.
reflecting my thoughts
Right.
basically at the
Well,
moment. Yeah.
yeah. So when I look at this chart, I say, listen, if you want to buy the support around 250, sure, that seems like a good trade. If you want to buy the breakout of 500, that also seems fine. But this kind of range, I think, can just absolutely kill traders, right? This to me seems like one of those, iron condor or right straddle selling strategies where you could just make money off the fact this thing's going nowhere for a while,
Wow.
and then wait for something. And this is where someone I've followed for a long time, Jeff Mackey, is really really good because he does a lot of this retail stuff, and he just talks about, you just go to the stores, right? If you think the price is wrong, go hang out, go walk around, try not to be too creepy, but go walk around a Lululemon for a while, a couple in your neighborhood, and just see, is it packed? Are the people just, running out the door with stuff, or, is it dead? But yeah, for this chart, I don't think there's anything really to do.
Yeah. No. Option sellers are having a field day. I,
Yeah,
gosh, it's
they
amazing.
usually do.
Yeah. CoreWeave IPO watch. Nvidia plans to buy $250 million worth of shares at $40 under the original $47 to $55 range, raising doubts ahead of the debut. Retail traders are cautious. What is that chart looking like on Nvidia right now? Ugh. We're just
So
still not
one,
we're still not going nowhere. I haven't been up to date with what Nvidia is doing at all, Michael, because it just hasn't concerned me. I mean, I'm watching NQ and ES all day, so I
one,
haven't even looked at the chart.
I don't think we'll go anywhere. And I know we're going to talk about this IPO, and I think there's another one coming down the pipe too. And what I'll say is that I think it's 85 to 90% of IPOs undercut their IPO price at some point in the first 6 months, right? And again, I'm a quant, right? Jordan knows this, right? Everything I do is quantitative, and you're right, I'm a big math guy. So I look at it and I say, okay, if there's going to be an IPO, I'm definitely not interested on day one, two, or three, right? I want to see that first 6 months where it undercuts. And I think a perfect way to look at IPOs and is Kava, because I don't think there's any better example here of an IPO and an interesting IPO is when you have the initial IPO and then of course it undercuts the IPO price just like clockwork, and then as it starts to break up back through, that's the kind of thing that I look for in IPOs. So and the reason I say this, I know there's a lot of people pumped for this one because there hasn't been a big IPO in years, and just want to kind of calm everybody down and just say, hey, you know, relax and just know that it could be, right? It means 20% chance that it just rips and never sees those IPO lows, but there's an 80 to 90% chance that we see it. So, right, don't get too excited.
Yeah, don't get too excited. Facts. We had GME down 22%. I know they had earnings and things have just been rough there. We could take a look at that, I guess. But App 11 down 20% as well, hit by a short report over ad practices. Ooh, yeah, it's not looking too good. That looks like it wants those daily lows, huh?
They got hit at on Muddy Waters or something, didn't they?
I
Was
don't know.
that
Gosh,
this one or was that APPS? I can't remember.
that might have been APPS. I'm not sure. But
Well, yeah, this one just, it's a high flyer and it looks like there's some profit taking coming in.
yeah, it seems like the first sign of like any. I don't want to say aggressive, but aggressive selling. Like this
Hmm.
is kind of the first sign of it you've really seen actually breaking structure to the downside. If you mark like that previous day low that we kind of popped off of, we definitely got closes
Yeah.
below that.
But I just want to, right? It's 3,000% up. So the question is, what more do you think it's gonna do, right? Do you
Yeah,
want to be the
it's
guy buying the stock after it's gone 3,000% in like 2 years? But yeah, I think you're right. I think again, if you want to take the shot, there's a pretty big level here. Right? You had the gap, you've got this low right here. We're bouncing in the pre-market. I think was it earnings or something happened in the a class action lawsuit. That's never a good thing. But yeah, so we have a little bit of bounce. So yeah, short report. I think it was Muddy Waters I need to look at because not all these short reports are created equal. I think Muddy Waters, for example, who said I think he's leaving and he's not doing the game anymore. He's like, I've done it all. He's pretty good. It's the Citron guy who's not so much. So know which ones are doing these. But it's at a support zone. It's a stock in a wicked uptrend. If you want to take a shot, then at least you know where you're wrong. And for me, when it comes to trading, that is all that matters. It's just I am wrong under 220. So okay, so you size yourself so if it breaks under 220, you're not too upset, right?
yeah, 100%. I like that. And then especially even if you're a more risky trader, more active trader, if that does fail, right? Let's say you do take some shots at those lows and it does fail and we get working into that gap. I always love some of those gap trades, trading to like a 50% retracement of that and maybe even getting a full gap fill to the downside, right? So if
Hmm.
thoughts change and we're breaking those lows and getting a clean back test of the start of that gap, that could be a nice little short. It would definitely be a smaller trade than what you're looking for to the upside, but opportunity on both sides here potentially. So love to see that.
Yeah.
You got any other tickers you want to throw on for the chat that you're looking
Uh,
at?
I've always got tickers, but
Yeah, let's see them.
there's the main thing that I'm really focused on is if we're going to get any participation in IWM. So IWM has been kind of the dog on the way up. It's been the dog on the way down. I'm looking for something here to happen. So, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how just these AVWAPs. I know you guys have Brian Shannon on here as well. Again, he's a personal friend of mine and a mentor. I've been watching his videos on YouTube forever. How well these have been working. So, if you don't tune in when Brian Shannon's on, what are you doing? But I'll just give a quick summary. An anchored view app is a moving average that, in my opinion, matters. You notice I don't have any real moving averages on the screen because most moving averages are just a 10 period moving average is the last 10 prices divided by 10. And that's all it means. Whether the candle had 100 million shares done or whether it had 2 shares, right? It values that closing price the same. The anchored VWAP is essentially just a moving average from a certain point that includes volume with it. So what it does, it tells you basically what the average price is if someone is dollar cost averaging into a security. So this is the SPY, and this is a SPY just right from the all-time highs. And you can see a couple times here, every time we bumped up our head against it, this acted as resistance. So when I said in the open that things were just going too well, it wasn't to brag. It was just that I've had 3 or 4 day trades and a long position here on bumping our head against that. And then when we came down yesterday on this candle, and then again in the pre-market, we came right to the anchored VWAP from lows. And the reason that this is important is because when it comes to hedge funds and large institutions and things like that, they fill their orders based off of these VWAPs. And there's a whole reason why I can go into if people are interested, but it essentially comes down to how do you know if you got a good price if you're trying to buy 100 million shares over 5 days, right? They use these as metrics. There's a lot of VWAP algorithms that go on. So the fact that we are respecting these so well just make me think that this is a very algorithmically driven market. And some of the emotion may have just kind of been sucked out of things. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm with you 100%. I love this little tool you have, especially for just keeping it. You're keeping it so simple. It's like, hey, we're breaking below this with aggression and peeking our head at it and just getting constant rejection. I'm gonna continue to maybe short from here or hold off on longs. And when we start getting that support again, I just think it's perfect. It's awesome, especially
Well,
for
I know
the
before
longer term.
we'll go through some of the charts. And again, in chat there, I've got chat open. You can post whatever tickers you want. We can take a look at them. But I know we were talking about me getting into some futures trading, and that's essentially
Oh,
my
Michael's been getting into it, Chad.
I've
He's been
I've
getting
been
into it.
diving too deep, and this is a strategy I've chosen, right? So those are the those are the trades I took on ES every time we got to that zone on the SPY. And then the only trade I've taken so far today is natural gas, just a little bit ago, just right at this level. The idea is that this is right the anchored VWAP from this major high right here, and you can see how many times it was respected. And again, just like I mentioned to the person who's talking about APP, is that if I'm right and the thing falls in and we break this low, that's an amazing trade. And if I'm wrong, I'm out right here. So, I don't need to be any more than 50% accurate to know that, the risk reward is there. And just to show what a junkie Jordan's turning me into showing this kind of stuff, right? Is here's the NQ, and I took this one last night on this candle. I just had a resting order out, and I get an alert
Nice.
that we got filled. So this is midnight and 1 a.m. I am getting on my phone. I'm
You
scalping out
futures
of this
traders better
position.
watch out. Michael Nauss
So
is coming in hot.
yeah, you've I'm gonna send my wife after you when she goes, "What are you doing on your phone at 1 in the morning?" So listen, this guy Jordan, he's
There's
got
this
me into
kid
this.
out in
He's
California,
getting
you
me
know?
into this game.
Oh,
But
that's
yes, no,
so funny.
that's so again, it's a basic game plan. And I guess when we start looking at the market on intraday basis, you can see VWAPs here as well. So it's one of those things. The reason I love this so much and I love this these ideas is because they're very quantifiable. I don't do anything with my money until I've done a back test. I've proven there's some sort of edge that exists out there that I can then exploit. Again, using a bit of discretion, but that I can test and I can put my hands on. So it's what I do. It's what we do over at Stats Edge Trading too. Every trade we make is based off of 30 years of back tested information. So yeah, so as soon as Jordan got me into this game, I'm like, okay, well, can I do the same stuff I'm doing from a swing trading side to another side? And then again, I think the big thing is the fact that we're rejecting or we're playing in these levels so well. Again, this isn't something that cares about macroeconomic events and things like that. That's what this market is, right? This market cared about every tariff news. Technicals did not matter on the way down, right? I was coming on here, I was looking at support zones, and we'd hang out there maybe for a day or two and then just fall. It just didn't care about technicals here, and that was because it's a very emotion-driven market where people are like super, super into it. when you get this sideways consolidation, this is where technicals I think play a little bit more action, just because there's not that emotion. Everyone is waiting. It feels like we are in a holding period, waiting for, most likely, it's April 2nd. Is that when all the tariff announcements are? I think everyone's just chilling until then.
Yeah, pretty much. It definitely makes it easier to identify the volatility when it finally steps into. You know it very quick. It's like these past 2 weeks we've been consolidating back and forth, and then this new week we got. I instantly knew when we opened up Monday. I was like, oh, volatility's here. We're back a little bit for sure. Just with the price action sheerly that we got, and you see it a lot more this week. You see a lot more emotion driving the price rather than those past 2 weeks we saw. It very much felt like everybody was just waiting, and like you say, it still does feel like that into April there, but at least we
Well,
got a little more.
and one thing that was very interesting, I'll see if I may have deleted I had these reminders. Yeah, I did think I did clear them. Optuma, which is a great charting platform, and they do courses for the CMT, and a great follow on Twitter. They were talking about how in so far year to date, 67% of all stocks are outperforming the S&P 500. And on this down day right here, that's 75% of all stocks were outperforming the S&P 500. So this shows you kind of just what we've been talking about, that it's very much, this is currently localized into dealing with these large cap names, these big stocks. It's all focused there. So there are other places under the hood that I think that people should be focused on, that are doing much better. Outperforming doesn't mean going up when the market's going down. It just means that, again, outperforming. So one of the sectors that I'm super interested in is just financials. The XLF, uh, AVWAP from the August low. This was the yen carry explosion. A lot of support found there. So financials have been doing fantastic. So boring financials for boomers like myself with a lot of gray in your beard would be, JP Morgan, Bank of America, all that. But for people who want to get a little bit fancier with it, well, Robinhood's technically a financial, and then you can see the chart looks pretty much the same. Now, Robinhood has the added exposure where I think it moves a lot with Bitcoin and crypto. So you got to keep that in mind. But look at the same anchored view app from the same price on in August, right? Support there, and it's been support right here as well. So Robinhood's a thing that's interesting to me. Even though, and I'm sure you saw this on Twitter or Stocktwits yesterday, they did the stupidest announcement of all time yesterday. Did you see this?
Yeah, I
The
did.
money delivery, cash delivery.
I I don't I
So
don't
dumb.
understand it, but
It's so dumb.
I guess, I guess, sure. If we want money delivered, we should be able to do it, I guess. But like, why? Like, who needs to ever do that? Tell me right now. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. I don't get it
So
at all. But
the the memes obviously were hilarious.
oh yeah,
The
everybody
For
loved it.
those who don't know what we're talking about, is that on Robinhood soon, I guess you can say, I want you to deliver me $200 in cash, and a guy will bring it to you, and I guess, I don't know, put it on your doorstep or something, which is all of the problems you could imagine. But the funniest tweet was, what happens when my Robinhood cash delivery guy and my drug dealer show up at the same place? Because what, it's 2025. What do you need cash for? Like, I
And
don't I
two,
don't
it's just like
understand.
it seems like a backstep from where we've been
Right.
going for so like I can send money from my phone like anywhere in the world with crypto or it's just a complete backstep. I don't understand. But
I don't, and the
hey,
infrastructure behind deliveries just seems like, again,
I guess
I live in the middle of the woods, and I use my watch to pay for everything. I don't know why
yeah.
we need
I
cash,
guess
but
give
that's,
people all the options, right? And let them choose. I
as long
guess.
as it doesn't cost you, I guess. But
Yeah.
down a little bit this morning off that news. I don't think that surprises too many people, but
No.
overall, I really like this chart. And then if you want to go super long term on Robinhood, this is starting to look very cup and handly, right? Where you've got this big move. Those who have not read How to Make Money in Stocks by William O'Neill, you definitely should. There's a lot of successful traders that me and Jordan know when it comes to Andrew has just been killing it.
Oh yeah.
He's a William O'Neill type of guy, and Nick Drendel, and all these guys are very. And the pattern is pretty simple, right? You have a prior high, you have a downtrend, you have a sideways trend, and then an uptrend, and you find resistance at that prior high, which is exactly what happened. And then you just wait for some digestion as it gets back through that high. Uh, Generally speaking, not everything works, but it's a really powerful pattern that can do very well. So, yeah, this is a huge watch for me. Again, and the idea being that financials are holding strong. They're not doing nearly as well. If we just take that chart and you compare it to the S&P 500, you can see how well it's done. And if you compare it to the Qs, you can see how well financials are doing. So, uh, you know, the market usually doesn't come to an end if your banks are doing higher. Usually those are the ones that show you a sign of recession at the same time, right? Where you had December 22, 23, they in the 2000s, then you go back to 2008. Obviously, they're the cause of everything. But yeah, you have, if you have financials doing well, that's great. And then the other sector that's super interesting to me is XLI, and this is industrials. So, we've had a couple years of AI, right? AI doing everything. But at the end of the day, to be a strong economy, you have to have good banks and good lending and all of that. And you have to have people building stuff, right? And industrials are, think of your Caterpillars and John Deeres and whatever. It doesn't matter what they're building. If they're building AI infrastructure or whatever, it doesn't matter what they're building. They just have to build something. So, I really like the look of these names as well. And it's one of those, I don't see the world necessarily ending too hard if these are doing well, right? If banks are making new highs, if industrials are doing well, excuse me there, just messed everything up. Sorry. Whoa. It's got this snap thing. There we go. Much better. Yeah, so it's one of those things where if those are doing well, I don't think any of the economic reports I'm too concerned with, and I'm not too worried about anything kind of ending there. So those are the two areas that I'm watching. And if we look at the heat map on just to show the pre-market action, boom, and then take out everything that's not moving, you can see overall red today, but very kind of pinkish. So not doing too bad when it comes to most things, just down a little bit. So again, it's very much it feels like a wait and see market. So what we have today, tomorrow or Monday, and then Tuesday. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm on back here Monday, and I wouldn't be surprised by Tuesday if we are still within these anchored VWAP. So that's kind of the bet that I'm making. So anytime we're going to dip under this one, I think I'm probably going to be a buyer over the next few days. If we get over that one, I'll probably be a seller over the next few days, because I just think the whole world's waiting for whatever this tariff news is going to be. That's going to be a wild day where everything's going crazy, and then the market can do what it wants to do. Whether or not this is the low or not, I think will more or less be determined on April 2nd.
Yeah, agreed. And on top of that, I mean, we just have all this. We have plenty of data next week as well. NFP at the end of the week, unemployment rate. I know Powell's
Yeah.
speaking. Unemployment claims, services PMI. We got a bunch of stuff next week that's just going to bring extra volatility and extra emotion into the market as well. So
Yeah, the way I look at it, right, the bull case, we're above this 576, and we can hold above that VWAP. I actually have a investment strategy that looks for stocks that are under an AVWAP from all-time high for at least a month or two and then breaks it. So that's this exact pattern, and this is a lot of what we do. And the bear case, I don't necessarily think it's this anchored VWAP. I think it's just this low right here, as long as we're above that low. So we're open. So let's see what the market does.
yeah, market is open. I know we got Leah coming on too. What's up, Leah?
How's it going?
Hi guys, can you hear me well?
Yeah, you're
I
good.
can.
Good
Okay,
morning.
perfect.
Good morning.
All right.
How's
Oh my gosh.
how's the
How are you
week treating you?
doing?
It's been a crazy one this week. We're getting some more movement
So
rather than the
annoying.
past two. But yeah, how are you treating it?
You know what? I'm thankfully in those stocks that I always talk about, so they are doing pretty well. But my crypto portfolio is very upset
Don't look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just like, oh, it's interesting psychologically when the market is not doing well. I mean, the stock market in the US specifically, people are
Hmm.
just depressed. You can feel like this really anxiety between people. And it's affecting everything, like everyday life decisions with like vacations or rentals. Like I see it also with my rental properties. It's much harder to rent now because of the market.
Hmm.
So yeah, but I just did some hedging on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'm glad I did. And I sold my bonds that I bought on Friday on Monday. So I could have waited one more day, but you never know. I got a lot of tech that I was posting online what I was buying, and I got out of most things on Tuesday.
Did you
So
ever end up trading any of that Tesla
I
off
did,
those
yeah.
lows we made? Let's go.
Yeah, we
Good
had
stuff.
Tesla, we had
Love to hear
HIMS.
it.
I was in HIMS. We made 15% on that
You can
one.
share your screen, by the way. Feel free
Yeah,
if
let
you
me
want to.
share
Yeah,
my screen. Actually, I always forget that.
no worries. You're good.
Share here. Yeah, so I had a good week, but literally it was Friday till Monday. That was it. Like
Hmm.
I didn't hold it longer. I could
Hmm.
have held one more day, but again, you never know. And now I'm just hedged. I have 560 strike puts on SPY for April 17, and I sold 550 puts. So it's a wider spread, but it gives me a little bit of hedge, and it gives me a little bit of safety also in case that we go up on the tariff. But so far we are not. This looks to me like a perfect bear flag. I don't know, Michael, what do you think? But this is like a book perfect so far.
It's always very, very hard on the first bounce, because the first bounce can either, yeah, it can either be a bear flag or it can be a low. And that's why I keep saying we need to see what happens on the next like major pullback on Tesla and the SPY itself. Like if we on Tesla, if we pull back to 250-ish and there's buyers there and then we push higher, well then it was a higher low. But yeah, if we just end up breaking down, it does look
Yeah.
like a bear flag to me, and the same with the SPY. So I've got my hopeful hat on. Like you mentioned, everyone gets a little bit bummed when the market's down. So bull markets, my buddy JC at All Star Charts always says that bull market parties are more fun, but we have to trade whatever we see. And again, right now they're looking very bear flaggy, but I hope just for everyone's sanity that they don't turn out being.
Yeah.
Yeah, that structure look on the market can be a little deceiving sometimes because you see those higher lows with kind of a weak bounce in the market, and you think, oh, those have to get taken out to the downside, and then that one day comes that just rips us through all the highs, and you're like, well, that's not a bear flag anymore, is it? So got to be careful there. But yeah, I think everybody's just really waiting for all the tariff news. It's
Hmm.
pretty
Yeah.
uncertain until then, but as I'm sure you've noticed, Leah, there's just this week we definitely got some at least bigger moves, even though we haven't gone anywhere really on the higher time frame. We have gotten some bigger kind of swings throughout this week, which
Oh yeah, it
I've
was
liked.
insane. Even 2 days ago, yeah.
Yeah.
For futures and for yeah, it's great if you trade that. What is this? Yeah, that was the Friday. So we traded this, and then as I said, I have some hedges. I'm gonna wait, and we are also like silver and gold. I mean, silver has just
Doing
been
so well.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
silver's been amazing. It's beyond all my targets. The violet line is my target, so it's just
Well, and
it's
to me,
doing
it's
well. And
uniform with Bitcoin. With Bitcoin just being so quiet, it makes sense to me that gold is continuing and silver's doing well. But I feel like as soon as those turn around, is going to be we might already see it in Bitcoin after the fact, but I would anticipate that that's a little bit of a tell when those start to finally give it up, and the risk comes off on like gold and silver. I feel like the risk could be back on Bitcoin since they're
yeah,
so
but
kind
the
of
question is
opposite.
when, right?
Exactly. Question is when. Yeah.
Doesn't look so good with the data, to be honest with you. And we have the highest inflation expectations we had in a long time. So if
Yeah.
inflation is going to skyrocket, which I predicted with this administration, and I wrote 16 pages article on that, I don't think they're going to lower the interest rates any soon, to be honest
Mm-hmm.
with you. So it just overall doesn't look good. And with the tariff chaos, guys, I'm just seeing things pretty bleak right now. Again, like, I'm as I said, I'm long in Geo, I'm long silver, gold. Geo is just absolutely amazing. We've been in this one. This is like one of my biggest positions, and just trade. It's a Trump trade, right? This stuff. That's what you do. Or as you said, you can trade futures. And when it comes to individual stocks, it's pretty difficult this year. I would suggest that most people just chill and wait, because it's a great time to lose your money if you don't know what you're doing, which is pretty. It's difficult trading market for most people. I mean, we trade for many years, and it's easier for us maybe, but for regular people, it's really frustrating. Well, it's Tesla. Yeah, Tesla is going back down.
No, not my Tesla. Save her.
70, yeah.
No, I think that's right, and it's
God.
one of those. I hate to ever say easy, that there's times where the market's easy and the market's hard. So let's just say
Oh, yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
And there are times when the market is much easier and much more conducive to people trading it, and it's just not that right now. So
No.
if you're new, and especially if you're struggling, as summer's around the corner, right? Just take some time and go to the beach, and do something that's a little bit more fun than banging your head against the wall, and just know that eventually, at some point, there will be that again, right? That will occur again, where there'll be a lot of fun to be had in the market. I don't think it's right now, right? I just don't think
No.
it's one of those things where,
It might be the whole year like this, Michael.
yep.
I'm prepared for that. I've been prepared for
Me
this
too.
since the end of last year.
Well,
Really.
and it's year three of a bull market, so we've had two back to
Yeah.
back 20% up years. So if year three is just hanging out, I don't think that's the end of the world either, right? I think it's one of those that the market should take a break. My worry is always just the people out there that are the real degens. They don't have the wherewithal to understand that, yeah, the market's going to be a little bit of a nightmare right now, or for that period of time, and that they should do something else. And then if you're not someone who has the ability to actively trade, that's fine. Right? Just hang out and do something else. And then when you start to see these giant growth stocks hitting new all-time highs again, and everyone's having a good time, then maybe dip your toes back in. And I think an easy way to do that is just say, okay, the market's going to make all-time highs at some point, and that's probably the time that things start getting fun again. And now, you know us three, we're going to be participating in the market all the time, but we've had plans, and we've been doing this for a while, and this is what we do. But for the average person out there, right, maybe just go to the beach. you
Sit
know
on your hands.
I can tell you right now,
Right?
if I was not like as active traders as we all are, and I was just, an investor, I would be sitting on hands and just DCAing into the S&P constantly. And when we get those big downturn months, you know what I mean, where we have multiple consecutive months to the downside, that's where I'm throwing bigger limit orders in, up in the size on any limit orders that I'm taking. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
really what I'm doing right now. I'm just also actively trading on the short term, right? But that's really what I've switched to, because I personally, you know, last year was great, and the last 2 years have been
Oh,
amazing, and I've
amazing.
done
We
very
what?
well. But I'm not going to
60%?
sit here and say I am
Yeah.
the smartest trader
Yeah.
individual and I knew everything was going to happen. I did not. No, I got very lucky with the dips I bought in the market. And now I'm realizing, hey, I really don't really want to lose any of that. So I took a lot out of the individual names on the long-term side of things, and just keeping with SPY, keeping it simple and keeping it easier, as you were saying, Michael,
Yeah.
just because, like, I mean, I can't be stock picking in this market right now and focusing on the short term as well. It's just a lot. So instead, kind of just keep it easy and throw everything into the S&P on big dips. But
and
that's what
if
I'm
yeah,
doing.
if you want to make it like really simple and binary for yourself, there's Jim Fommy, who's just a great, he's been trading for a long time, he's a great follower, and he's just got a basic idea that, hey, if the SPY is below the 50-day moving average, I'm going golfing. And if the SPY is
Yeah.
above the 50-day moving average, I'm looking for, and not to say that that's going to be a perfect system or anything like that, but it's just the way of thinking about it, where you don't have to, you've got a kind of binary check. And I know people who do this with the VIX as well, right? If the VIX is at a certain level, they're short-term trading, and if the VIX is at a lower level, then they're long-term trading. But yeah, you can come up with a little system for yourself and say, okay, I'm going to set an alert on my trading view, and I'm going to wait till, right, the SPY is back above the 50-day moving average. And when it is, maybe I'll look for some stocks to buy. But until then, it's going to be a messy market, so let's just leave it alone.
Yeah, for the short-term trading, for sure. For short-term swinging, it's like, why would you look at the chart? I mean, below 50, you could have saved yourself 1 month of stress and chop, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, look, if you understand the macro of the companies, you understand financials, then sure, buy some dips. But I also don't think that the dip was so excellent that we would be adding to those names for long-term big time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, like, when you think about the mega caps, they were pretty beat up, but it doesn't mean they can get beat up more. Like when we remember 2 years ago, what happened, you might think 20%, 30% down on mega caps is a lot, but then you realize it's not. It can still go down much more. So yeah, that's my trading. I'm just really, I'm doing a lot of research now. I read, I've been in this name again. I don't want to pump any stocks, God forbid. It's not a financial advice, but it's a huge write-up on European satellites and aerospace. So this company is pretty good. It's nowhere near to Starlink, but Europe is trying to become self-sufficient with that and not be depending on Elon Musk. So this company is what I added to my investment portfolio for longer term. And yeah, I'm waiting.
Can always count on Lia to have these tickers that I will never bring up on my chart, but they're always having these great setups on it. I love it.
But this one is, I mean, I'm telling you, the prisons are.
Oh yeah.
My God, this probably goes to 36, 37.
God, it's doing
not
really
too
good.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got all these
above 50.
crazy European stocks. I'm Canadian. I couldn't even tell you where the TSX
Geo.
is. Oh, okay, that's an
private,
American one.
That's private prisons.
Oh, the Geo, yeah. Just talking about the last one, these weird stocks that you find, and yeah, I couldn't tell you what's happening up here.
You can pick like stocks, but it's really difficult this year. You have to really combine not only technicals, but more like the macro, and think about, okay, what's going to happen in the next couple of years with this administration? What do I think that is going to go? And that's how you need to think as well, which is not easy for many people.
Yeah, and I think that's always a good chat to have, right? And again, as a CMT, I think everyone expects me to be totally cheerleading charts, but you have to, I think, just like, right, mixed martial arts or whatever it is, a combination of things always help. So, right, I'm a quant, right? So I run models and systems and back tests and then combine it with charts. And yeah, it's the same kind of thing is there's generally not one discipline. Just like the people out there that are great macro people, but they don't look at a chart, and so they can be right about what they think is going to happen in the macroeconomic environment, but still not good traders. I do think it's the combining of those things that ends up being the best way to do things, whatever it is, whatever two skill sets you have. I think combining both of those gives you an edge over someone who's just a technician or just a fundamental analyst or whatever.
I combine a lot of quant data, and I do a lot of quant when it comes to SPX every morning, just looking at the hedging and flow and gamma and all those levels. So that's how I establish my levels on SPX, and then I trade based off of that, even when I trade individual stocks, because they're going to be moving mostly with the SPY, especially the high beta ones. So yeah, this is my levels on SPX. If we get there, there's a huge JPM strike on 55.65, which is kind of my level, 55.65 right here, which would be the worst case scenario into the tariffs if we get there. But that's kind of what I have in my mind. And if we would get there, that would be where I would be heavily playing the bounce, because that's pretty much, you have this insane amounts of orders in those options. And when you see where are the strikes of those like callers or butterflies, whatever the institutions are doing, you know that the gamma is negative until then, but the moment they close those positions, it's gonna bounce. So that's what I do every morning. I set up my lines and I play with that. Yeah, so today we're gonna probably just chop. We're gonna chop. I have levels on SPX. If I would trade it, I don't trade it, but a lot of my members do. And then yeah, I play it by that. That's like my structure for the day if I want to trade. And when I see that SPX is hitting my support, then I can play a reversal, for example. But I would never trade individual stocks without looking at SPX, for example, or SPY for that matter. I have the levels on SPY too.
Yeah. And I think that's another good lesson for people is that, I get the question all the time. It's like, hey, why do you spend, you're a quant, you have a system that tells you what to buy and where. Why do you spend so much time looking at, the markets and the technicals on the chart? Is because that's where a good amount of discretion can come in. And, things like also we talked about, with the tariff event that's going to happen on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever next week. These are things that your models don't know because you're back testing over 30 years of data. Well, this particular event hasn't happened before, so it might say buy this here, but that there's this massive announcement coming in a day or so, and you just might say, okay, well, I'll just wait until then. And having that understanding on top of just quantitative analysis, I think is huge, and ends up helping out a lot
Super
of people.
important. Yeah. Well, look, we just need some sort of a certainty, and that's why also gold and silver is rallying because they are rallying in uncertain times, right? And
And in
also,
uncertain times, it's like hold
yeah,
your gold, hold your silver, right?
exactly, yeah. So
Yep.
now also, even if the tariffs news are not the best that we expect, as long as something is signed, the market can settle and we can have some sort of a bounce, but market just hates uncertainty. That's a number one thing. Like if we know that news will be terrible and it's, set in the stone, things are signed and the market kind of adjusts, but yeah, we need something. So until then, I think we're stuck in limbo.
Yeah.
We can play it. I mean, it's a nice. I mean, if you play this right, so it's a nice bounce. Nice, even if we dip down there and go lower. That's a pretty good tradable range on this, on SPX or SPY. So there's always something to play. But again, if you feel like for listeners, you're on a tilt, you're overwhelmed, just things are choppy, you get stopped out of everything you open, take time off, really. It works magic for me too. And yeah.
Yeah, because I'm with you. I think the nothing like you mentioned, right? The market hates uncertainty. So as long as there's on Tuesday, I think it is, it lays out, okay, here's the plan for tariffs. This is what the company or countries need to do to turn off the tariffs, or they'll never be turned off. And this is just it's gonna be like this for what I think it's 4 years down there for each administration. Then I think that's eventually fine because the business will figure out ways around it, and then the market will at least be able to understand. Because as a quant, you got to understand that most other large institutions are also quantitative. Could you imagine trying to update your models on different companies when the tariffs are changing intraday?
Yeah.
Like it's a nightmare. This is why when people say the market hates uncertainty, it's right. They send some poor intern down. He said, okay, you got to update your models on all the automotive companies because of this tariff. And then by the time the kid gets back from lunch, you go, okay,
First,
now the tariffs have
different.
changed, so go
Yeah,
update
I
them again.
know. Yeah, it
Oh
just doesn't
gosh.
work like that. But
Yeah.
Ferrari already figured it out. Ferrari said yesterday that the 25% tariffs, they will take over the 15% and the customer will take the 10%. So that's a
Interesting.
great
Okay.
marketing, yeah.
Yeah.
But they can afford it, I guess. It's
Yeah.
going to be more difficult with middle class cars.
I was
And
gonna say not everybody's gonna
I
be able to
mean,
do that.
yeah, and people already don't have money right now, so I don't know how
Yeah.
they're gonna even afford 10% more for cars. Like, I was yesterday in a parking garage, and there are literally no American cars. It's like 90% of cars are like from somewhere else. So we'll see what happens. I'm sticking with my European cars. I don't care about the tariffs.
I've always been a German car lover. I love my
Me
German
too.
cars.
Yeah, the best. It's like, yeah, Ferrari is nice too, but it's like having a high maintenance girlfriend.
Yes. Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I
I've heard
love it.
horror stories from some of my buddies with those and Lamborghinis of just
Oh, that's even worse.
they
And
drive them
Alfa
for
Romeo, it doesn't matter. Italian, they're very temperamental cars. I had
yeah,
Alfa Romeo before, and
I spent how much on this car and I drove it for a day and it's busted. And it's
yeah,
just like, well,
yeah.
I'll take my Volkswagen, thank you very much, and I'll
Volkswagen is
Yep.
know
amazing. It's an amazing car.
I'll
Yeah.
know exactly. I'll know that when I need to get in it, take my kids somewhere, that it'll work, and that's about it. But it's very interesting to see, Ford and GM little downticks on these news, and it must be that they're
The
planning for
parts, no,
retaliatory
their parts, yeah, their
or
parts
their
are not made
parts.
in the U.S., I think. right?
Oh, yeah. See,
Yeah,
that's
there was
where us
something about
Canadians
that.
are getting hit because I think we make a lot of your parts and we ship them down there. So
Canada. And
that's why.
we actually Ford had factories in Canada too. They changed it lately, but these cars are all made in Canada, majority. Yeah, it just changed. I don't know when, but not long ago actually. So yeah, so Ford was hit pretty hard, no? And what else was the GM? You said, yeah, I looked it overnight. How is it doing? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hit hard too. Yeah, it's just yeah. Anyways, no comment.
Well, I hope
Yeah.
we're Canada and the U.S. are friends by. I'm planning on coming down for the cash tag awards. I just don't want to get
Yes.
beat up in the
Oh, me
street
too.
with.
I'll be there.
I'll be good.
We're
But
jumping
I,
you.
I just don't. I don't know how to. I say a lot. I've got this big beard. I don't know if I can hide the
I'm
Canadian.
American and I say A, so it's okay.
Good. Okay. Figure they got that. That's how they'll find me. I'll talk about a boot too much and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's Canadian. Get them.
Yeah, so we will all be there in New York.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
That'll
Yeah,
be
it's
fun
gonna be
times.
fun. Shout out the Cashtag Awards. I know we've talked about it plenty on the
Yeah.
show, but for the audience, shout out to that. We're all gonna be there, so it's gonna be a great time. I'm excited.
And it's funny as I'm watching as we're chatting like this. The markets have done nothing.
No,
Like
no.
absolutely.
They're not gonna do anything today.
Yeah, I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna kick my feet up on my stream and not do much for the whole day because
I'm watching. Yeah, 5 minute chart here of the SPY and flirting with pre-market lows, but hasn't not up, not down, just hanging out. So
Hanging out,
you know, we're not being too lazy. It's just there's nothing too much going on.
Yeah.
Nothing
again-
exciting. I would stay away from longs below 5,700 because,
I'm with you.
as I explained, the gammas.
Yeah.
I'm with ya.
Yeah, and then again we have the elephant in the room, which is the 200. That's the technical part, but again, also the option flow is showing that it's not an ideal situation to enter longs below. You could like play a very small bounce, but yeah, we need to get above. And
And I
we'll
know
see.
it's tough, but just you don't have to trade every day, guys. Like in the
You don't.
audience, you do not have to put a position on every day. It's beautiful when we can get back-to-back plays all the time that are clean and we have conviction on. But really, again, in this market, I trade 3-4 times a week, and I'm day trading, right? So it's just a matter of your style and what kind of setups you're waiting for and how you're capitalizing. But just remember that a good trader is not necessarily taking entries every day. That doesn't make a good trader, right? Just make sure you're hitting your risk to reward, you're following your plan, and it's all that matters, especially in this market. That's what I've seen the best traders do is they're not trading more, they're not doing anything different except for being way more patient and playing only the A-plus setups in this market and just having very strict rules for themselves of if this happens, then I'm doing this. Very simple. And it's I think just having a strict plan for yourself when the market does turn into the market that it's been, that's how you survive, right? And not getting too caught up. And when you're losing, when you're making mistakes, you just accept, hey, I'm wrong. Everybody's wrong all day long. Okay, there's not one person that's right constantly. So it's not about me being right or wrong. It's about, okay, when I'm wrong, can I like dig myself out of this hole? Can I manage risk? Am I able to keep the losses small and continue to, make bigger winners than my losses? And that's all it is, right? So
Yeah, not to lose everything in this
Yep.
kind of situations because that
Absolutely.
My old trading mentor back when I was a discretionary trader, one of the things he'd always say is that you've made it as a trader when you sit at your screen all day and do absolutely nothing because there's just nothing out there that meets your setup. He's like that's
today probably.
yeah, it's
Might be.
it's the hardest
Alright.
part sometimes. You end up seeing patterns in clouds if you stare at charts too much. You end up seeing, oh yeah, this is a setup that I really want. It's like you're just kind of tricking yourself because you're bored. And again, for me, I leave. I'm gonna go and walk the dog and get out of the house. It's finally not insanely cold in Canada, but just do something to get yourself away from the screen. And like Lee was talking about, doesn't mean you're done. You read books, I've got an academic paper that was published about this this trading method that I'm gonna read today, right? Just because you're not trading doesn't mean you're not working on your trading. It just means
See,
you're
that's
doing.
what's so hard. You think I'm not taking entries, I'm not on the charts, I'm not getting work done. Where it's like sometimes a trader's hardest work is stepping away from the computer.
Yeah.
But it's just because trading is one of the only things in the world where it's like you cannot necessarily just brute force work your way to like the top. You know what I mean? You actually get paid and rewarded for impatient or for being patient and holding off. You know what I mean? Rather than I need to work 10 times harder. It's actually not necessarily the case. A lot of the time, most people don't need to do anything else but just follow their plan and
I
get right with
personally
their
write
mental.
Books when
What's
I'm,
that?
When I don't, I write books. I write articles and books when I don't trade. I do research.
Love it,
I
yeah.
I write fun stuff like fiction. I've read about research on certain companies or products, and yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
shout out
what
to
you
you,
can
Leah.
do
You're always putting out a ton of content on all your social media
Yeah.
platforms. So
all the time.
everybody
Yeah.
make sure you're following Leah and Michael Nauss
Thank
on
you.
all the platforms. Yeah, and I think we're good to wrap up for the day. But
Yeah.
always a great morning with you guys on Fridays. I hope
Yeah.
everybody in the audience enjoys the day and trades safe. Remember, play your plan, baby. If the setups aren't there, close the screen, walk away, go enjoy the weekend. So
Yeah.
everybody have
Early
a great
weekend.
weekend. Yep, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Thank you guys. Bye. Bye everyone.
Bye. Yes, sir. Good stuff.
Good.
Beautiful moaning.
Always.
Pretty much,
I'm
yeah.
gonna do it. Just
I've
doesn't
I've
make
had a
sense.
bad week already. I'm not gonna make it worse. You
Yeah.
know.
It's-
So
yeah.
No, trust me, my portfolio is down like the tech ones. It's disgusting.
it's funny.
At
I'm not even
least,
down
thank God,
much.
I have this.
I've just missed plays. I've missed A+ opportunities because I couldn't pull the trigger this week. But just a little mental block in my head. What we were just talking about, literally.
Yeah.